Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have 7 o'clock. We'll call the regular City Council meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Certainly. Mr. Burmeister?
Here.
Ms. Hammond?
Here.
Mr. Kittle?
Here.
Mr. Knight?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Present.
Ms. Verbecki is not here at this time. Mayor McDaniel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Council, we have just a few slight adjustments to the agenda this evening. We're going to go ahead and pull off 7B, Boy, 7C, Charles, 9J as in John, and 9K King, as well as the executive session, which is item number 13. With those adjustments, we'll go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes. We have the City Council workshop minutes that occurred on June 12th. If there are not any corrections, I would be open for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Burmeister. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And then we had the regular City Council meeting that occurred, the minutes for June 12th, also of 2017. If there aren't any corrections, I'd be open for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hammond.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Burmeister. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, we have appointments and presentations. 5A, council requesting a motion to reappoint Laura Oaks to the Planning Commission. Ms. Oaks has been serving on the Planning Commission, so this is exactly that, a reappointment. She's indicated her interest to continue serving on that commission, and she has done a fabulous job doing so. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for a motion for the reappointment.
Your Honor.
Mr. Burmeister.
Move to confirm the appointment of Laura Oaks to the Planning Commission for a term ending July 31st, 2020.
All right, moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support?
Second.
Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 5B, requesting a motion to reappoint Sam Baydoun to the Planning Commission. The same holds true for Mr. Baydoun. He is doing a fabulous job and has indicated his interest to stay on that board. With your permission, Council, I'd like to get a motion for the reappointment.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kittle.
I'd move to confirm the appointment of Sam Badoon to the Planning Commission for a term ending July 31st of 2020.
Moved by Mr. Kittle. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Knight. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 6 is public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, this portion of the agenda is reserved for anyone in the audience wishing to speak on an item that is not on this evening's agenda. We do ask that as you come through council chamber doors that you fill out a public comment form. This helps facilitate the meeting and to ensure that we have accurate information for public record. At this time, I do not have any public comment forms. However, if you did not get an opportunity to complete one and you still wish to speak, would you please come forward at this time? Okay. And at this time, I would like to call State Representative Tim Greimel, our State Representative Tim Greimel, to the podium. Good evening, Mr. Greimel.
Well, good evening, Mayor McDaniel, and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell and members of council. It's an honor to be here with all of you this evening. I wanted to come by because we have someone who all of you know very well who has made us proud across the state, and that individual is Terry Cole. Terry was recently awarded the prestigious Quill Award by the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And to give you some sense of how prestigious this award is, only 2 municipal clerks receive this award each year around the world, internationally. And it's a very well-deserved award. Terry has been obviously here in Auburn Hills for a number of years. But before that, she was in Shelby Township. She served as a trustee in Shelby Township as well as clerk, and has been involved in municipal government for about 27 years, as I understand it. She must have started when she was 10 years old. And so it's really an honor for me to be here to present this state tribute and proclamation to you, Terry. This is signed not only by me, but also by State Senator Jim Marlowe, Governor Snyder, and Lieutenant Governor Calley. And like I said, you've made us all proud here in the state of Michigan, both by receiving the award from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, but even more importantly, by your longstanding public service at the local level and with a number of state organizations, working on the Qualified Voter File, for example, working on the Help America Vote Act committee at the state level. So I just want to thank you for all of your longstanding service. It's people like you who make democratic elections possible in this state and across this country. So thank you for all that you do, Terry.
Thank you. We'll have Ms. Kowal, we'll all join you down for a photo op, and let Mr. Grime will give that to you. All right, congratulations again to our wonderful clerk, and thank you, State Representative Greimel, for presenting that this evening. Give one more opportunity for public comment here. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting at 7:08. Council, that moves us on to the consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, all items are listed to be considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of any of these items unless the council member so requests, in which event that item will be removed from the consent agenda and then considered in its normal sequence. Council, the items for our approval this evening are the receiving of the boards and commission minutes for the Beautification Advisory Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, the Tax Increment Finance Authority meeting minutes, as well as the Planning Commission minutes. Council, consent agenda is before us for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve consent agenda items 7A, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Moved by Mr. Kittle. Do we have support?
Second.
Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to 8, old business. We have 8A. It's a request for motion to approve the alcohol permit for the summer concert series. Good evening, Assistant City Manager Grace.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Back in February, City Council approved a change in city ordinance that would allow the use of alcohol at certain city-sanctioned events. As you know, Council previously approved the sale and consumption of alcohol at our premier event this past weekend's Summerfest. To our knowledge, the addition of alcohol at this event provided added value for many and was implemented without incident. A second area of change that influenced the modification of the alcohol ordinance was to allow the consumption of beer and wine at the city's Friday night Concerts in the Park series. Before you for consideration is a memo prepared by Mr. Brian Marzoff requesting approval for the possession and consumption of beer and wine in approved areas of the park for the remaining 2017 Friday night Concerts in the Park series. Mr. Marzoff was unable to attend tonight, so I'm hoping I can assist in answering any questions you may have regarding this request.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grace. Council, any questions for staff? Ms. Hammond?
I do. Actually, while reading through this, and I understand that there are patrons that come down early and set up and eat and stuff before the show. And I have no problem with the hour before because generally there are city staff down there setting up as well. But I don't like the idea of leaving it in there for like an hour and a half or whatever after. I think that maybe an hour after while staff is breaking down and there's still city staff down there is plenty of time for them to finish up and clear out.
Mr. Mayor?
I think it's a half hour. It's only a half hour after the end of the band. The band ends at usually around 8:30, I believe, and the proposal is from 6 to 9.
That wasn't what I had read through all of the information though.
So I just,
It said until dusk.
yeah, I know that our bands start at 7. They're typically done by 8:30, and the way that I
Yeah.
see the proposal here, it says roughly they'll do 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So, Mr. Knight, did you have something real quick?
I'm trying not to be emotional about this, but I am appalled that this has come forward. Now, the beer tent at the this last weekend was well done, well connected. I went up and had to show them my ID to get a sticker so I could get in to inspect. And I knew one of the bartenders, and they seemed to be happy. I thought that was well done because it was off in its own area. When we approved this, we talked about doing some experimenting. I'm surprised that we aren't doing the same thing with a concert in the park, probably a little later on in the year, and see how it goes. This thing says there's a boundary there that is where all the people sit, so it's okay for people to bring their own bottle and drink openly. Now, I realize that alcoholism is the biggest drug problem in the country, by far. And I know that kids are exposed to drinking in the home and so on. But here's families and kids and that running around, and anybody and his brother carrying his own bottle, bringing his own bottle in, which is competing with getting a beer or something with their downtown merchants, and just having it circulate among it. I'm just really surprised. Now, if for example, an area, anybody over beyond the pathway where we're going to put in the pavilion, you say, drink over there, I could hold my nose and tolerate it. But this is putting beer drinking and wine drinking and whatever right among our kids. And I didn't think that when we approved this thing, that this was just carte blanche to come in with a proposal for the rest of the year to use this. I felt that a one-time experimental would be proper. And so I'll leave it at that. But I think we're changing this to an adult only, because I don't think the kids belong where there's open bottles and so on. And I'll leave it at that. I'll probably lose this battle and lose this war, but I think that we're really changing the whole standards of family values. Now, we were concerned up at the community center about families being there. And we talked about that and said, well, most of the events will be after hours or in the evening, and will be restricted to a specific area, kind of by invitation only. And you know, I could see that was the control. I think we're not doing anything here other than encouraging liquor consumption, alcohol, and so on in front of our kids publicly. There's not supposed to be any alcohol in the park. I realize this is a provision to allow it. Now, if this is going to bring out, I was quite amazed. The folks at Summerfest, there was a mixture of older and a lot of millennials enjoying themselves. And that could have been a reason to bring the millennials. But I'm just, and I'll get off it because I've said enough. I think we're destroying the concert in the park as a family venture and making a concert in the park for adults. And if that's what we want to do, well, then have all the liquor you want. But I'm just surprised we're moving so fast. Issue.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I know that we've had quite a bit of discussion, Council, in previous meetings regarding this. And I know that while other council members shared similar concerns, I know that the majority of council at that time had asked staff to bring this forward for the concert series. And the thought was that they would do it for the entire concert series. And then if there was any problems that were to come, you know, just as we approved it as a council, we could then take action to eliminate it as a council if we saw any particular issues. So they're just, you know, being that these are annual concerts, these concerts happen on a weekly basis, and council does not meet on a weekly basis. It was the desire to have these as the entire series so that we weren't holding special meetings to just continue on week by week and approve or disapprove, you know, based on how we felt that week or if there's any issues. But if we do have any problems, I know that the police department would bring forward any concerns to us as well as our ordinance officers and code enforcement, and that at that time we could, if need be, either at the next meeting or hold a special meeting to then rescind the opportunity for patrons to do this at the park. So is there anything additional from our city attorney on this one? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Knight.
I just want to make one more comment, and I'm going to make you mad at me. But some of you don't come to the concerts, don't even know what it's about, and you're voting to have liquor in the park because somebody else has told you to. And I would like you to have come and been involved in our concert in the parks to know what it's like down there and who's there. But that's just an observation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Council, any further questions or discussion items as it relates to this? Ms. Hammond.
Just one quick one. I would like to have it put in the motion, though, that the hours would be from 6 until 9, and no glass bottles allowed.
Okay. Are you making that motion?
I will, if we'll.
Okay, is there any, before we
Yeah,
take a
those
motion, is
two.
there any further discussion or comments? Mr. Burmeister?
As far as policing this goes, has our staff, other than the police department, been trained on the overconsumption or tracking the overconsumption?
No, the staff that would be involved in the oversight of that concert has not.
Is there any plans of doing that, just so extra set of eyes for the police department?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if the police department has had contact with Mr. Marzoff, but I'm not aware of.
We haven't, but we can certainly do for other entities in the city.
Okay.
I was thinking more specifically like is it tips training?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Correct. The tips training so that they can, know when somebody's intoxicated or when they need to call us. We can certainly provide that.
Mr. Kittle.
Just one point of clarification, and then also, I mean, I don't think we're gonna be attracting, you know, Kid Rock or Metallica or anybody down there. I don't think it's gonna get too unruly. But from what I recall during the conversation, I mean, even after one, we can stop it if we find it to be problematic. So, okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Just as we approve it, you know, we can all come together again and rescind that approval. Council, any further comments or questions for staff? If not, I'd be open for a motion.
I'll move to allow the consumption of alcohol in the designated area at the Friday night concert series in the park from July 7th through August 18th, 2017 at Riverside Park in downtown Auburn Hills, with the hours to be from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. with no glass bottles allowed.
Okay, moved by Ms. Hammond. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Rebecki. Is there any further discussion or comment? Mr. Kittle?
Is the no glass bottles gonna create a, a problem from is it gonna be a bag check, for everybody that comes in or that sort of thing?
I don't think so, but I think that, it's obvious if somebody's carrying a glass bottle or drinking out of a bottle, that there's generally at least three of us down there somebody would say something to.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Rebecki?
Is it possible that someone from staff could have maybe just some plastic cups this time? Just in case we have people who show up with glass bottles, just to make sure. We don't want any glass there where children are running around playing. Just an idea for like maybe this first time.
Yeah, I think we can probably have them bring some. You see any problem there, Mr. Grace?
We can work with it.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, thank you. Okay, as many of you know, I've commented on this particular issue before. As many of you also know, I have partaken in alcohol consumption before. The manner in which we had alcohol, or we introduced it to our Summerfest event, to me was ideal. You had a licensed provider, it was organized, it was in an area that was separated from the rest of the families. I felt very comfortable having that type of introduction of alcohol at one of our city events in that manner. When I think about an event like our concerts in the parks, I do think that they are very family focused. And I do think that an introduction like this does have the potential to change the temperature or the climate of that event, which may or may not be manageable for us. I want us to recognize that we have a very diverse community. What's responsible alcohol consumption for me may not be responsible alcohol consumption for someone else. And you're going to have it openly in the park with everyone else that's there. And for that particular reason, I'm not in support of having it done in this fashion.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Mr. Knight?
Just make a comment. There'll be 2 concerts before the council meets again. And so if you have a problem the first one, you haven't stopped it. Maybe you might like to start it with a week from Friday, so you have 1 concert under the belt before you meet again.
I've talked to staff about this. If we do have an urgent issue, right? All of us are well aware that we can just meet and hold a special meeting to do that. So I think that from that standpoint, if we need to and it becomes that much of an issue, one, we'll have staff work with our city manager, get the police department and our city attorney involved, and then we'll take appropriate course of action at that time. Mr. Grace?
Mr. Mayor, if you want to authorize Tom and I to be able to do this internally, we could do that as well without the need for a special meeting. So if we approve it tonight and something went desperately wrong at the first opportunity, then we could certainly make the decision to end it at that point and then bring it back to council at the next regular scheduled meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Is the motioner comfortable with that revision?
Yes.
And how about this second supporter?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Kittle?
I'm just gonna bring up one thing. I mean, to Ms. Mitchell's, comment too. I mean, remember back in the Pine Knob Music Theater days, you could bring whatever you wanted to up on the hill, bring a keg if you wanted. And obviously they changed that down to the concession stands. And I too, it would be, if there were a concession stand where you could go buy a beer, I don't know if there's any, opportunity for that. To me, I would favor that, where people could go buy a glass of beer or wine versus, carrying your own. We may find ourselves, since that's a lesson that's already been learned by others, that we migrate towards that. If we want to go with it as an experiment, I'd support it. But it might be a better alternative to find, a concessionaire that would be willing to support it, much like the Summerfest.
And I think that's exactly it, Mr. Kittle, there is just, from the feedback from the patrons that have gone there, I know that this was, one of the many requests that would come up in terms of being able to bring a picnic basket, a bottle of wine, a plastic bottle of wine, and some, and some or a box of wine. You may not want to drink it then. In some solo cups to sit there and enjoy the concert and literally leave. So I know that was a request, that was feedback that was received. We interacted with a lot of patrons throughout all of last year's concert series, and so this was literally just that, giving it a shot, seeing how well it goes, and we can kind of make the appropriate determination if this is going to be, long-term, maybe at the end of this season, or try it, again for next season.
Why don't we ask, and I don't know if this is a tack on to the motion or not, but, maybe we could get a report back after this for the next city council meeting, which would be 2 events went down?
Well, you can just, Mr. Knight attends every single one with myself, and I know Ms. Hammond goes to a lot of them. So yes, but no, absolutely. If there's any issues, we can get a report back. I think that staff will be committed for sure to letting us know if there's any problems.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have a motion. We have a support. Is there any other further discussion or comments? If not,
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify,
Sure.
this does begin on the 7th, so there will only be one occurrence before the next council meeting.
yes, and the motion did say the 7th, correct? Okay. We are ready to vote.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
No.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
who have I missed? Mr. Knight,
No?
Ms. Mitchell,
No.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to new business. We have 9A, council. It's a request for motion to approve, for the approval of the rezoning of 2025 Dexter Road from R1B, which is a one-family residential district, to B1 limited business district. This is for the Cornerstone Community Financial Credit Union. Good evening, Director Cohen.
Mayor McDaniel and members of the city council, if we can handle both the rezoning and site plan at the same time, that would probably be best.
Sure, we'll call both item 9A and 9B.
This is a request from Cornerstone to rezone and purchase the rental home that is situated directly north of their property at 2025 Dexter Road. It will facilitate a parking lot expansion of about 30 spaces. The parking lot will only be used during the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., and no access will be provided to Dexter Road, as their entrance and exit will remain on University Drive. The parking lot expansion is proposed to accommodate the credit union's anticipated growth. To facilitate the project, Cornerstone has requested approval to rezone 2025 Dexter Road from R1B, one family residential, to B1 limited business. As previously mentioned, the parcel currently has a rental home on it. The adopted City of Auburn Hills Master Land Use Plan allows 2025 Dexter to be rezoned to a non-residential use, since the intent of the project is to combine the parcel with the credit union's parcel to the south, which has frontage on University Drive. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the rezoning from R1B one family residential to B1 limited business based on the adopted plan. Understanding that any change of residential zoning to non-residential zoning adjacent to a neighborhood is a very sensitive issue, staff asked Cornerstone to proactively communicate with the neighborhood and submit a site plan simultaneously with the rezoning to show everyone their intent for the property. Cornerstone has worked closely with city staff and has made every effort to be respectful of the surrounding neighborhood with their proposal. Our report outlines the extensive buffering and other site design considerations proposed by Cornerstone, which exceed ordinance requirements. As you're aware, Cornerstone and city staff have had communications and met with the owners of the parcel directly north, 2055 Dexter, Tom and Barbara Cardinal, prior to the Planning Commission meeting and of course at the Planning Commission meeting. It's my understanding the Cardinals could not be at the meeting tonight, but we wish to inform the council of their concerns. They had several concerns with the project and wished to be compensated for their perceived loss of home value for being next to a parking lot. They have asked Cornerstone to provide a number of enhancements to their property to address the negative financial impact on their property. And we wish to advise the council that under state law, the city of Auburn Hills cannot require Cornerstone to make off-site improvements to the Cardinals property. However, all efforts are being made to be respectful of the Cardinals property and to mitigate their concerns. Cornerstone has offered $1,500 to assist the Cardinals with additional screening to address their tenant's view from the home's raised deck, which you can see on that display. In addition to the screen, they are proposing to add 7 additional arborvitaes between the evergreens proposed, 10 to 12 foot high, to help screen in the areas between the trees. These were done as an effort to mitigate the concerns of the Cardinals. So to conclude, the proposed site plan and ordinance, the site plan meets ordinance requirements, and the proposed rezoning is consistent with the city's master plan. Thus, both the Planning Commission and staff have recommended approval of the project as presented. Heidi Kassab, the president and CEO of Cornerstone, is here to expand on her proposal and to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions for staff? Ms. Hammond?
Quick one. I told you I had driven past this, Steve. Is there a dumpster out back now?
Yes.
Where will it be positioned? Is it gonna stay where it is, or?
Sean, you can see there, the dumpster is near the building.
Okay.
So it's in the existing parking lot.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was far enough from where
Yeah.
this, okay.
Sorry, Director Cohen, did you say Ms. Kassab was here from the
Yes.
credit union?
Yes.
Okay. If I could have Ms. Kassab come forward at this time. Do you have a question for staff? Okay, go ahead. Ms. Rebecki.
Thank you. I just had a question, Steve, about, can you go back to the slide you were on prior to this one? The next one. The one that listed the 3 items? Okay, removing the wood fence. I guess I have a concern about that. How would that take place? Is the wood fence on the property of the credit union, or is it something that this is not going to be in our agreement? This is just something that they've agreed to do, correct?
That's correct. It's our understanding in our meeting in the field that the Cardinals were okay with that fence going away because it's being replaced with a nicer fence. They just wanted their whole yard fenced by the credit union, which was not something that they were able to do, and I'll let Heidi address that.
Absolutely not, but I guess my question is, or maybe ask the credit union, how do you plan to remove the fence since it's on their property? Are you going to go onto their property, or what kind of agreement, how does that work?
I don't know, Ms. Kassab, can you answer that?
I can address that.
Okay.
It'll be something where they work on it together. If they can't come to an agreement with the Cardinals, then they would just place their fence right next to theirs. But we met in the field before the Planning Commission meeting. The Cardinals were fine with having the wood fence removed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Kittle?
So, Steve, the red line indicates that's the fence line, correct?
That's correct.
And then, so the arborvitaes and then the other trees, the pines are the existing pines that are being relocated.
No, those are new. So essentially, if you look at these photos, the existing buffer and existing trees and the existing fence for their current parking lot is there. 14 of those trees are remaining. What they're going to do is recreate that buffer where the wood fence is that you see today. So they're going to essentially have 2 buffers to their building. There'll be a new white fence that's put up, and then I think there's 14 evergreen trees and a mixture of evergreen deciduous, and then an additional 7 arborvitaes in the gaps to help address any immediate concerns with screening.
So the existing trees will remain as a buffer to the old lot, if you will.
That's correct.
And there'll be a duplicate type.
There'll be some trees removed to allow for the parking lot driveways to come forward, but 14 trees will remain.
Okay. And then, right now, there's a double fence on the 2025 southern lot line. There's a chain link fence and then the white one.
That's correct.
So this one's gonna have not a double fence, it'll just be, you'll be removing the old wooden rickety thing and replacing it with the white version that we see currently?
We felt that aesthetically that one fence would be easier to maintain. So currently, right now, that chain link fence was added somewhat after the white fence was put up. One of the residents had a dog and decided to put that fence, but to keep it cleaner, what we do is put the fence up, and then there's rock placed behind it, so you don't have lots of shrubbery and so forth. If the owners wanted to keep their fence, we could do both and maintain it, keep the weeds out and so forth, but it looked aesthetically better to keep one fence up.
So the plan is to just have one, and it's to be, I'm gonna say identical to what you have currently?
Correct, identical, same height.
Same. Now, is that right on the lot line? Currently, I mean, so where the wooden fence is today, so the setback is gonna be exactly the same.
We have a little bit of a gap right now because we do have the white fence, and then we have a border behind it of rock to keep tall grasses and shrubbery, so they can still get behind it and clean it. So currently today, it's not right on the lot line.
But the new fence will be on the lot line, I'm sure.
If they would.
Or you'd give them that couple feet.
Correct. If they're giving us the option of not taking down the wood fence, which they did appear to want the wood fence, it's kind of not in the best condition, so it's leaning in some spots, it needs some repair in some spots, so they did seem to be in agreement to take their brown fence or wood fence down and put it with the new fence.
Not in the best condition, that's a pretty generous statement.
It is.
I have a couple other comments, but I'll give up the floor for the time being.
Hold on, I think, do you have something? Mr. Knight had something, and then I can come back. Mr. Knight?
Boy, I'm getting philosophical tonight. Many years ago, primarily before this board, previous boards just had a conniption if you allowed an entrance off of a side street into a business. And I think we still got a restriction on the funeral home and the business that's just down from this site, the attorney's office, they have an entrance off, and that never really was a problem. We were overkill on that at that time. I'm concerned here just a teeny bit of what's to prevent Cornerstone from buying 3 more houses and extending their campus. I'm concerned here, and I think it's a good plan, what they have here, but I'm concerned, are we establishing it's okay to go into residential districts if you have a site? When is it wise and when it isn't? Now, on the west side here, it's all residential, so it isn't like we're doing anything. The question was raised by the neighbors commenting that they thought this might be more than a B1 use. I don't think it really is, having some more activities in the thing, but maybe it is. Maybe this should be B2. I'm just philosophizing. Are we saying it's okay for any of the people along University Drive who have frontage on it, if they want to buy property next door, which is their right, that we will automatically let them in? Are we setting a precedence here, or are we actually doing good planning by the way this is being done? And I just asking our planner, just reinforce me that we're all right, that we aren't getting out a little on this one.
Well, every rezoning is done on a case-by-case basis, and that's why we asked the Cornerstone to bring in a site plan to show the council and the planning commission what their intent is. They really won't have a need for additional parking. This was meant to build out their upper level of their existing building. They really won't, because they're a financial institution, they won't have a need to add additional parking. So I don't see that occurring in this case, and Ms. Kassab can probably confirm that. In other cases, it's all done on a case-by-case basis. The master plan provides some flexibility to the city council to allow for some encroachment into the neighborhood, but obviously it's a very sensitive issue that has to be done right. In this case, we think it's been done right and consistent with the city's overall goals.
I wanted that type of explanation to feel comfortable with it.
Ms. Rebecki?
Ms. Kassab, you mentioned, when Mr. Kittle had a question, you mentioned that they would be removing the fence. Can you just clarify? Who's,
We would be removing the fence as long
Okay.
as as long as they would be agreeable to, and they did at the last meeting say they were agreeable to removing that we could remove the fence and replace it with one white fence that would be continuous from their lot down. And I believe it, even the conversation had come up that we could even extend the white fence further than where it is today if it provide more of a buffer for them.
it's very generous of you. I mean, it's not required, so in my opinion, that's very generous, so, okay, thank you.
Mr. Kittle, did you have some additional?
Yes. So in principle, I struggled with this. You know, I went and walked the site and I looked at it and I like to rehab homes. And, you know, I thought, you know, I in particular bellyache a lot about not having enough residential. And here's taking a house off the market when we're trying to bring people here. I did have one question relative to the property. How long has it been vacant and has it been listed for sale? I mean, has anybody had the opportunity to buy or flip it? Now, and I'll wait on the answer to that, because when I went and looked at the property, it is in about as bad condition as the wooden fence. And the garage, you know, is about a 5-degree list to it, which means that would have to come down or would take some pretty substantial reconstruction. And my other question was, and I talked to Mr. Cohen about it, was Cornerstone Federal or Credit Union they pay taxes. So this in effect would increase the taxable value of their property as an offset to what we might lose from a residential property. So from a net effect to the city, it's not like it's going to a university or a place of worship to where it wouldn't be on the tax roll. So we would still be realizing some money on it. So under, you know, all those concerns, the only really question that I had was, had this thing, how long has it been vacant and has it been, you know, on the market at all?
From my recollection, the house went on the market late summer of last year. And since I've been there, and I've been at the credit union since 1997, that property has always been rental property. We purchased the house directly in front of that during our last expansion, and it assumed during that time, I guess a good assumption, that we wouldn't grow much more beyond what we have. We've grown another $150 million in assets since that time and has needed us to complete the build out of the second floor, add additional parking. When it was on the market, we did look at it a few times. We didn't make the offer. And in November of last year, we placed the offer, but it had been vacant after their last tenants moved out and has been vacant since late last summer. The Gavettes who own the property are actually in attendance and probably could verify that if you want a more exact date. We, the Creighton, have been maintaining the lot. We've been cutting the grass because it's been getting long. So we've been maintaining it even though we don't own it yet, just because it doesn't look very nice. And we do believe that even as was mentioned at the last Planning Commission meeting, several residents did get up and did not speak against the project, actually spoke for the project because they don't believe that that project or that property could be sold and would continue as rental property, and it hasn't been taken care of. And they felt that the way and the manner we take care of our property, we've been the city for since 1993. And have grown, have added on that second building about 7 years ago, and felt that the way we maintain our property, we shoveled the entire lot line along Dexter. They felt very comfortable with us expanding it, and we only had the one negative comment from the Cardinals, who don't live in the community. They bought the property in, I believe, about 2010, I'm sorry, for $20,000, and have actually received an uptick in the value of their property, not a decline. And we do believe that the value of our property or the look of our property would actually help their value versus what they're seeing right now.
Thank you. Mr. Kittle, did you want any further explanation from the owners?
No.
Okay. Council, is there any other questions, either of staff or Ms. Kassab? If not, can move on for motion here, and I believe we're gonna need two separate ones. So it's before us for a motion.
Your Honor,
Ms. Mitchell,
I move to accept the Planning Commission's findings and approve rezoning of 2025 Dexter Road, 14-278-022 from R-1B, One Family Residential District, to B-1 Limited Business District. The rezoning shall be referenced as ordinance number 17-892.
Okay, moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion or comment? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. And then a motion regarding the approval of the site plan, council.
Your Honor,
Ms. Mitchell.
I'll move to accept the Planning Commission's findings and approve the site plan for Cornerstone Community Financial Credit Union, subject to the conditions of the administrative review team.
All right, moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
I'll support it, but I have a comment too.
Supported by Mr. Kittle. Mr. Kittle?
If I'm still on council, I will go on record to say that I wouldn't approve any other further expansions of this property. And then I am looking at this as kind of the opportunity to avoid blight or eliminate it even in the case of that property.
Good points, Mr. Kittle. Council, any further comments? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Moving on to 9C, council. It's a request for a motion to approve a special land use site plan and a tree removal permit for Inco Corporation. Director Cohen?
Mayor McDaniel, members of the city council, this is a request from General Development Company to construct a new 135,000 square foot world headquarters facility for Inco Corporation. The project will be located in the Oakland Technology Park on the south side of High Meadow Circle, adjacent to Forcia. The site is zoned TNR, Technology and Research District. Inco plans to consolidate 3 separate Metro Detroit locations into this new facility so they can place all their operations under one roof. The majority of the building's floor area will be utilized for clean manufacturing, assembly, and warehousing operations, as you can see in these photos. Thus, a special land use permit is required for the light industrial use. Similar permits were issued by the City Council for U.S. Verathane and Herotech within this park. A notable issue that the Planning Commission reviewed was the replacement trees. The site is heavily wooded, and 446 replacement trees are required for the site. They were only able to fit 248 trees on the site. So 198 replacement trees are either going to be paid into the city tree fund or planted in other areas of the city. So like the Noah's and Hutchinson's projects, placing all the replacement trees on the site will essentially cause an overcrowding situation and not a healthy situation for the trees. The total investment is estimated at $20 million. Construction is anticipated to take place next month and actually might even occur next week, knowing General Development, with completion in August 2018. The Planning Commission and staff recommend approval of the project as presented. Teresa Bruce with General Development, along with Courtney Sears with Inco, are here to answer questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions for staff? Director Cohen, I do have a question as it relates to the trees to be planted off-site or paid into the city tree fund. Do we have any oversight, or is there any communication going in terms of the 198 trees, where they'll be planted, and in terms of following the specifications of that species of tree? I guess what I'm getting at is I don't want them just plopping, 2-inch trees anywhere and everywhere they can, that might die from salt or, there's a lot of times where there's trees planted and we know that they're gonna get a lot larger and in essence, they're gonna die.
Yes, there's essentially 2 options for them, for General Development. They could pay into the city tree fund, or they can provide, actually 3 options, provide trees to the DPW department to plant along the right-of-ways, or 3, they can plant within the park. If they were to plant within the park, they would have to submit a landscape plan of where they're going. That's reviewed by our woodlands consultant, And that would show the species and the size, and then we would monitor to make sure they're planted correctly.
Okay, perfect. Because I have been made aware that there are some instances, and I don't know if it's necessarily just in our city, but there are certain developers, right, that have access to trees at a significant discount. And a lot of times maybe their discount would be significantly less than what a city would even be able to get as a discount. And so knowing that, right, if I have to pay $380 per tree, but yet I can buy a tree at a significant discount of $125, I will then just go plant it anywhere and everywhere, right? And then put them 2 or 3 feet away and wait for one to encroach on the other, and then it dies, and then it's not my problem anymore. So I just want to make sure that our community is paying close attention to where these trees are being planted and that we don't find ourselves in that type of situation.
Yes, we will be watching very closely.
Perfect.
I just want to.
Mr. Kittle.
And to me, the key is too, the diameter. I mean, we've seen some saplings going in that are, you know, kind of embarrassing. So, but as far as the tree locations, I mean, we have every tree in the city inventoried, right?
Know exactly the DPWs, Mr. Grice, do you know?
I believe they have all the right-of-way trees inventoried, so not necessarily all the things in our major parks, but yes, the right-of-way trees are done.
Yeah, okay. So I second what you're saying, and I applaud you bringing it up. Thanks.
All right. Anything further, Director Cohen? Council, any questions for the petitioner of this site? Should I bring them forward? Yes. If we could have a representative from INCO please come forward. And as you reach the podium, if you could please state your name and the title of the corporation in which you represent.
Hi, my name is Courtney Sears. My title is Vice President of Corporate Administration. I'm also a family member. It's a 3rd-generation family business. My grandfather started the company back in '58. And we have just grown exponentially. We are also located in Germany, China, and South America, but we are very excited to consolidate our business in Auburn Hills.
Excellent.
My name is Teresa Bruce. I'm with Journal Development. I'll be the construction manager on this project.
Teresa, what was your last name?
Bruce.
Bruce? B-R-U-C-E?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Hammond?
Thank you. Well, we're pleased that you want to bring the world headquarters here to Auburn Hills. That's always wonderful for us. I'm looking down the road and I see nothing in here that where you currently run your productions. Is there any outdoor storage, and do you plan any in the future for this building?
I understand that's sensitive for Auburn Hills. Currently, we do have outside storage, and between our building is split, and that's where we store, but we are looking at other remedies for this.
So you're saying at the moment there's no plans for this?
Well, we're currently working on the building plans.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Cohen, any outdoor storage would be brought forward, correct?
We discussed it with them, and that's something that they're working on. They're going to modify the inside of their building to be able to handle pallet storage and things like that. And they have some recycling, but we don't consider that outside storage. It'll be stored similar to their trash. So that's we're going to be watching it very closely, and they're well aware. And if they needed outside storage in this district, they would have to get a zoning board of appeals variance.
Thank you.
Excellent. Council, any further questions? Mr. Burmeister.
Just a comment, is General Development doing the property on Cross Creek? Okay, so my guess is from the last council meeting, they've probably got the machines running right now because it seemed like the trees were coming down the next day.
No, foundations are done.
Okay. Council, any further comments or questions? Ms. Sears, Ms. Bruce, anything further you'd like to mention as it relates to the project?
We're excited to start next
Yes.
week.
All right. We appreciate your investment in our community. So with that, council will be open for a motion.
Your Honor.
Mr. Burmeister.
Move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation, approve the site plan, special land use permit, and tree removal permit for INCO Corporation, subject to the conditions of the administrative review team.
All right, moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. And again, thank you to both of you. We appreciate your willingness to invest within our community. 9D, request for motion for the approval of the site plan and tree removal permit for Vallejo North America. Assistant City Planner Keenan, you got this one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor McDaniel, members of the council. This is a request from Vallejo North America to construct a test track and 4,000 square foot testing office at their existing facility located at 4100 North Atlantic Boulevard. The site is approximately 28 acres in size and zoned light industrial district. The test track is just under a quarter-mile long. It will be used to test a wide range of Vallejo's advanced technologies. The building will be used for test track operations, various testing, and for the storage of test vehicles. There are two items I'd like to point out. The first relates to the test track screening. The plans call for the use of a 10-foot high chain link fence with a durable obscuring material fastened to the fence, similar to that is used for Continental Automotive Systems. This is the Continental's fence right there. We went out and looked at it. There's really nothing broken that you'd usually see from the regular slats that slide through. This is more of a panel type of system. The majority of the fence will be screened by the existing trees and landscape. Trees, ornamental grasses will be planted along the portion of the fence next to the parking lot where the red dot is right there, which will help soften the view from the parking lot. The second item relates to the ITC transmission lines that run along the south portion of, or I should say, the east portion of the site. There's a zero outage mandate that prohibits the planting of trees in the area under it, as well as 10 feet outside the wires. The vegetation outside that zone, again, will be limited to shrubs and flowers. This is why there are gaps. Here's, I guess, the towers, transmission towers in the area, and the red lines are the transmission lines. So you see the gaps really along here, and there, I think the towers right here that prevent some plantings as well. So that's why they screened quite a bit of it along the portions that we think is pretty consistent and will do well in screening. The total investment of the project is estimated around $3 million. Construction is expected to begin sometime this month or next, with completion taking place in September 2017. The plans have been reviewed, again, by the city's administrative review team, as well as the planning commission, who recommended approval at a 9-0 vote, I should say. And Mr. Poe Porstrap from Vallejo North America and Mr. Matt Vetter from Cunningham Limp are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Keenan. Council, any questions for staff? Mr. Kittle?
On the test track image here, I mean, is that the gray perimeter on it, is that just a curb? I mean, is it just a slab basically where they can put up various obstacles and that sort of thing, or is it more of an oval track? I couldn't find that in the...
I will let the applicant talk more about the test track, but around the test track itself, we'll have the fence with the screening, with the entrance taking place somewhere to the test track where the red dot is. They'll come through this way.
So I was having a hard time scaling it. I mean, from one end to the other there, how long is that?
It's just under a quarter mile.
So it's not
from this red dot all the way to here is just under a quarter mile.
So that's my question then. Is it an oval, or is that just a flat surface that you're gonna run various obstacles?
Let's give these gentlemen an opportunity to introduce themselves. Gentlemen, if you'd please state your name, the title, and which corporation you represent as well.
Good evening, Mo Persertive from Advanced Engineering Manager from Vallejo North America.
Okay, and sir, your name?
Matt Vetter, Director of Pre-Construction with Cunningham Limp.
Perfect. Can either of you address Mr. Kittle's question?
This is not an oval, it's just a flat test track where we will just drive back and forth, basically.
So it's just a big parking lot, basically, that, I mean, it just happens to be oval shaped.
Correct.
Mr. Knight?
Unless you're doing drag racing, it says this is a high-speed test track. And with the low ovals, you don't take those corners very fast. How is, it doesn't become a high-test track unless there's I assume it's a quarter of a mile from one end to the other so that it's a half a mile track? Or is it only a quarter mile round?
I think the high-speed area was designated in relation to the low-speed area where we do a lot of parking. So the lower end is what we call internally the low speed, and the longer section is what we internally refer to as high speed. And by high speed, we mean 45 to 55 mile per hour. And this is primarily to test our advanced technologies.
There's no rough surfaces. This would be all a smooth track. There's no bumps or anything for durability.
No, not at all.
I apologize if it was stated. Steve, how wide is that? Do we know? Gentlemen, do you know how, I know it's a quarter mile long, but do we know how wide that track is?
It will be roughly 60 feet wide on the south end and 75 feet wide on the north end.
Okay, just gives us a little bit better scale.
But you'll have you'll have the ability to move in various obstacles if you're checking your braking systems, or you can probably have a skid pad surface or something.
There will be no skid pad. There will be movable objects that, or targets that we can, these are man-portable items, very light, that we can bring in and take out at the end of the day.
So no weekend road racing or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Ms. Mitchell?
Good evening. Can you give me a better understanding of what type of evaluations you'll be doing? Are these active safety technologies that you're testing? What type of testing is being done on this track?
This will be, this will include all of the innovations and technologies that we develop at Valley North America. It's not specifically limited to active safety. It relates to our interior controls. It relates to connected vehicle technologies and other applications as related. So it's not specific to a very related group of technologies. However, day one use will be on automated parking. That's, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Verbecki?
I just wanted to clarify one thing. The test track will be on your property. I'm trying to think where my north is. The northeast side, correct?
Yes.
So where it showed the opening where the towers are and there's no vegetation, that's just going to be showing to another property. It's not going to be on the road or anything where people driving by would be able to see it, correct? Okay, thank you.
All set. Council, any further questions, either for staff or the representatives from Valley A? All right, gentlemen, anything further you wish to state as it relates to the project?
Just wanted to thank the city and the city council for their extremely kind support of this project. We appreciate that.
All right. Council, if there's nothing further, it will be open for a motion for the approval.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Verbecki?
I move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the site plan and tree removal permit for Valley North America, subject to the conditions of the administrative review team.
All right, moved by Ms. Verbecki. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion or comment? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for coming this evening. Appreciate your continued investment within our community. 9E, we have a request for a motion for the approval of a site plan and tree removal permit for Autoliv. Assistant City Planner Keenan.
Thank you, Mayor McDaniel, members of the council. This is a request from Autoliv to construct a parking lot addition containing 124 parking spaces at their existing facility located at 1320 Pacific Drive. The site, which has two road frontages along Pacific and Taylor Road, is approximately 13 acres in size and zone technology and research district. The parking lot addition involves the removal of 5 parking spaces to provide room for a curb cut for the access drive to the new parking area. Once completed, the number of on-site parking spaces will increase from 470 to 589 parking spaces. The additional spaces are needed for the Autoliv's growing business. Again, this is the area of the parking lot expansion. There are two key items. Plans, one relates to the Taylor Road Access Drive. The plans call for the access drive to that road in large part to the difference in grade of the existing parking lot and the proposed parking lot addition. The new parking lot will be approximately 20 feet lower than the existing parking lot. In order to match the grade, the access drive really is a pretty steep, or I should say grade, gentle grade that goes down from the Taylor Road towards the building. That's approximately 180-foot long access drive. The proposed access drive to Taylor Road will provide an added measure of safety for emergency response to that proposed lot. The city was contacted by two residents, Mr. Norman DeHaven, who resides at 1230 Taylor Road, and Miss Laura Duran, who resides at 1250 Taylor Road. They were inquiring about plans that included the separate drive onto Taylor Road. Both residents were satisfied with the drive since the plans include the enhancement of landscaping along Taylor Road. That was one of their main concerns related to the area. This is kind of what it looks like right now along the section. I will go back here, right along where the existing parking lot is that fronts Taylor Road. So they were very pleased that the landscape will be enhanced in that area, and we're satisfied with that. And again, the second one where I just referred to was the landscape. A lot of the missing trees that are on the site will also be replaced that had died. That will also be enhanced. And the connection with bringing this drive there, that will also enable the applicant to better manage the landscape along Taylor Road as well. Total investment in the project is estimated at $1 million. Construction is expected to begin in the summer of 2017, with completion taking place in the winter of 2017. The plans have been reviewed by the city's administrative review team, who, as well as the Planning Commission, who both recommend approval. Mr. Donald Stein and Mr. Patrick Petrzak from Autoliv are here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Director, Assistant City Planner Keenan. At this time, if we could just have Mr. Stein and Mr. Petrzak please come forward. Council, is there any questions for staff or the two gentlemen representing Autoliv? Gentlemen, if you would just please introduce yourself and the title of which corporation you represent.
I'm Patrick Petrzak. I'm the facilities manager.
Okay.
I'm Donald Stein. I am the facility supervisor.
Okay. Ms. Hammond.
Yes. Is there going to be a lot of truck traffic using this entrance?
Absolutely not. The truck with the egress going up, he was talking about the 180-foot, it's kind of an abrupt turn. Truck traffic cannot go up that. It would actually follow the normal route on Pacific.
Okay, great. That's my only concern with it being residential there. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Great clarification. Ms. Rebecki.
So following that up, Mr. Chief, for the fire trucks, would we be able to get the fire trucks up and down there easily and make the turns and get in there to the building if we needed to? Or would they, is the idea that you would still stay off of Taylor Road?
As part of the review team, the fire inspectors meet as part of that team, and they review the plans, and they have a template that matches the turning radius of our apparatus, and that all was reviewed and was agreed upon during that time of the review process.
So it'll be fine. Okay.
Correct. There's a turning template, I believe that's within the site plan. It shows the fire trucks, if necessary, will be able to make the turns around there, around to the new area if ever needed. But the quicker access, if anything were to happen in the expanded parking lot area, would more easily be accessed from Taylor Road.
From Taylor?
From Taylor, that Taylor Road could be used as an access
Could be, okay.
for the fire department. If you want a quicker response to anything that happens in that parking lot, because the distance from the Pacific Drive to that area takes quite a bit. You don't know if there's anything going to be blocking the way, whether or not people are leaving. It happens during 5 o'clock or so. So it's an added measure of emergency response to have that.
I was struggling with this one. You were very kind to host us about a year or two ago, and we had a great tour and got to understand your business. And at the time, I think we even talked about expansion. And so happy that you're willing to do this and that you're staying in Auburn Hills. And there was a little bit of that discussion, but I just was struggling with it being next to the residential. But I think with the fact that the residents nearby are okay with the changes, and the grade is going to change, so it will be able to add some vegetation and it'll look a little bit better. So I'm appreciative of that.
Mr. Knight?
Has nothing to do with the approval of this, but I was just curious, now, by opening an entrance to Taylor Road, will a lot of people use that to enter rather than going up on Pacific, people coming up from the southbound?
No, thank you, great question. We anticipated that to be one of the questions.
That's kind of the overflow then.
Yeah, that is strictly overflow.
So they gotta walk a long way to get in.
Right,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, it was just curious, because both roads are designed to handle traffic and, fine, thank you.
Sure, let me go to Mr. Kittle first. Mr. Kittle?
Gentlemen, long time coming, eh? You've needed this for a while.
Yeah.
So how many facilities do you have in Southeast Michigan now?
So currently 3. We have our technical center, we have an electronic center in Southfield. We are renting space as we grow with the new business and everything that we're getting, right in the Plant Moran building. We occupy the 2nd floor. As we're doing internal renovations, things of that nature, adding more cubicles and things of that nature. So we have a temporary site that I'm counting as one. We have the technical center in Auburn Hills and our electronics in Southfield.
Okay. I knew of the one in Southfield. I didn't realize you were.
Yes.
I know you're growing fast, so.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Rebecki?
Thank you. Another question. There's a left turn lane to go once you're on Taylor Road to go north onto Joslin. Steve or Mr. Keenan, is it possible, how far back, can you show a drawing how far back that is? Because I don't believe the left turn lane comes back this far. Are we going to have to extend that? Are we going to have to do some improvements to Taylor Road?
I will defer to our city engineer related to traffic.
Mr. Judici, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. There's the section of Taylor Road through there is a 3-lane. There's a center turn lane all the way through that they could utilize for turning movements into and out of the driveway.
Is the whole way, okay. I drive it all the time, but in my mind, I couldn't remember how far back it went. Okay, thank you. That'll make it easier too for people coming in and out. If they decide to go in, at least they will have an option. Okay, thank you.
All right. Council, any further questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Rebecki?
I want to go on the record that I think we're going to need a light at Taylor and Joslin very soon.
If there aren't any further discussion items, be open for a motion.
Your Honor,
Ms. Mitchell?
move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the site plan and tree removal permit for auto leave, subject to the conditions of the administrative review team.
Moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Kittle. Last chance for discussion. Ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, 9F, it's a request for a motion for the approval of the city-initiated rezoning of 6 Championship Drive from I-2, which is General Industrial District, to TNR, Technology and Research District. This, as you know, is the Palace of Auburn Hills. Director Cohen, good evening.
Good evening. Mayor McDaniel, members of the City Council, the City of Auburn Hills, in cooperation with Palace Sports Entertainment, has initiated this rezoning application to prepare the 109-acre arena property for redevelopment should it no longer remain viable as a sports and entertainment venue in the years ahead. As a little background, the land currently has two separate and distinct zoning districts. The property on which the Pistons practice facility is located is zoned TNR Technology and Research and contains approximately 6 acres. The property on which the arena sits is zoned I-2 General Industrial District and contains 103 acres. The city and Palace officials have agreed that TNR zoning is best suited for the entire property. The recommendation for the TNR zoning came as the result of a detailed planning analysis conducted by the city, which was shared with the Palace officials. Please note, the TNR zoning classification is also being presented for amendment in the next agenda item to permit the arena to remain in the TNR district should that be the final outcome for the site. The Planning Commission and staff recommend approval of the rezoning as presented, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions?
Ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion?
Move to accept the Planning Commission's, hang on. Yeah, go ahead, Henry.
All right, Mr. Knight.
Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Mitchell.
I move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the rezoning of Sidwell number 14-02-300-022 and the portion of Sidwell number 14-02-300-021 that is currently zoned I-2 General Industrial District, also known as the Palace of Auburn Hills, from I-2 General District and District to TNR Technology and Research District. The rezoning shall be referenced as ordinance number 17-893.
Support. Moved by Ms. Mitchell, supported by Mr. Kittle. Any further discussion or comment? We are ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 9G, as in George. Any additional items there for request for motion, Director Cohen, regarding the text amendment to the zoning ordinance?
Mayor McDaniel and members of the City Council, as discussed in your memo in your packet, the primary reason for amending the TNR district is to allow the Palace of Auburn Hills to remain as a conforming land use once rezoned. Other changes proposed to the district is to allow staff to administratively approve outside storage at the Fiat Chrysler facility at 800 Chrysler Drive, and also allow the Oakland Community College as a conforming use in the TNR district if that property were to be rezoned in the future. We clarified some other issues related to green belts and lighting at recreational facilities, but those were pretty minor. The proposed text amendment has been reviewed by the City Attorney, Dirk Beckerleg, and staff, and we recommend approval. The Planning Commission has also recommended approval. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions for staff? If not, ready for motion.
Your Honor.
Mr. Burmeister.
Move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the enclosed text amendment to Article 12, TNR Technology and Research Districts of the zoning ordinance. It shall be referenced as ordinance number 17-894.
Okay, moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support?
Support with a comment.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Ms. Hammond?
Yeah, I think we all need to comment that we are not kicking the Palace people out. We're not forcing them to do anything that they haven't already discussed on their own. We've appreciated them being here all these years, and we all think it's a great building. So this just allows them to stay if that's what they decide to do.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments?
Your Honor.
Ms. Mitchell.
I am in support of the rationale that's stated in items 2 through 4, and for that I will support this revision.
All right, any further comments? If not, we're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Closing out new business, we have I'm sorry, we're not closing it out. Next item is 9H. We have a public hearing and a request for a motion to adopt changes to the fire code ordinance. Good evening, Chief Manning.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Tonight is the date and time set for a public hearing and a second reading of the amendment to the fire code. As you recall, last council meeting back on June 12th. Inspector Boyce was here and went over the changes in our fire code, which basically adopts the changes to the updates to the International Fire Code, as well as includes some clarifying language to our local ordinance on bonfires and recreational fires.
Thank you, Chief. Council, before we open the public hearing, any questions for the chief? All right, we'll open the public hearing at 8:19. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, anyone wishing to speak on this item this evening, would you please come forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 8:19. Council, it is back before us for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Rebecki.
I move to adopt an ordinance to amend Chapter 38, Article 1, Section F 104.11.7, F 304.3.5, F-307.2, F 507.5.1, and delete sections F-307.4 and 307.4.1 of the City of Auburn Hills Code of Ordinances, Fire Prevention and Protection.
Okay, moved by Ms. Rebecki. Do we have support?
Second.
Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now, closing out new business, we have 9I. It's a request for motion regarding the approval of an urgent replacement of a DPW custodial van. Assistant City Manager Grice.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, the DPW memo before you tonight is requesting approval for the urgent replacement for a custodial van. On June 12th, a DPW custodian van was involved in a vehicle crash, which resulted in significant damage to the vehicle. As is mentioned in the memo, the damage is estimated to be within $383 of total value of the vehicle. So it's recommended that they replace rather than try to repair this vehicle. They do have funding available in the fleet budget to accomplish this, and they are just looking for approval to do so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grice. Council, any questions? Mr. Knight.
I assume, or tell me, we have insurance that covers the replacement?
We are actually self-insured for this vehicle.
Okay, on this one, okay. I understand, I knew there was some self-insurance, okay, thank you.
Any further questions, Council? If not, ready for a motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Rebecki.
Move to purchase a replacement Ram ProMaster City from LaFontaine Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Inc., 6131 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Lansing, Michigan, 48911, for $20,592. Funding is provided from the Fleet Operating Budget Collision Repair Account 661-442-930.001.
All right, moved by Ms. Rebecki. Do we have support?
Question. Support with a question.
Supported by Mr. Kittle. Mr. Kittle?
I'm assuming that the wreck has some value, though, from a...
Yes, I'm sure that they will look at getting salvage value on the vehicle.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Knight?
How will you do the decals and that? Is that something that you do out of petty cash? Do you need approval of any money to take care of, re-identifying the van?
No, they don't. They do not.
All right. Ready to vote.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 10, comments and motions from council. Mr. Kittle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the fire department. Chief, if you can pass along to Deputy Chief Matias there about saving us from smoke inhalation when we had the out-of-season burning going on. I think they were burning tires or something over there. I appreciate that. Thank you also for getting the signs up around Fieldstone. I think that will help those that are coming there for a first time locate it. And seems like there was one other, but I'll stop there. Thanks.
All right. Mr. Burmeister.
Had a great time scooping ice cream at the Ice Cream Social, and I thought that it was a well-attended event. Do we know about what the numbers are?
I do not have those yet.
And also for all you golfers out there, scooping ice cream improves your golf game the next day, doesn't it, Mr. Kittle?
That's right. All in one.
Nice. Ms. Rebecki?
I was just gonna say the same thing about the ice cream scooping. It was fun to sit with my fellow council members here and see all the residents out. We had a great time, but I think definitely that we had a high turnout because the people who were counting the cups that we were putting them in said they kept running out, so, thank you.
Excellent. Ms. Hammond?
I've got a couple. Well, I'll expand beyond the ice cream social. I want to thank city staff. They did a great job as usual with the cleanup and everything else with Summerfest and all the great activities that went down there, and the volunteer people that came out and gave their time and energy to making sure all the stations were manned. I noticed the other night in my area, and I don't know if you heard the mayor, there were fireworks already going off. So we need to probably at least get the word out on the city website and information again when you can set off fireworks, because I know a lot of people have animals and whatever that are very sensitive to these things. And I had a neighbor from Roberts Court come down today, and he was chased by a large coyote last night when he was out walking his dog. So this is the first time somebody's actually said that they've become aggressive. So I want people to be aware and be mindful of their animals, their children, and walking around at night.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. Mr. Knight?
Several quick ones. The first one is, I have a mother deer and a fawn in my neighborhood that comes through casually, and I noticed Tom put one on the other day right outside the offices here. And so I'm not sure whether we're going to have a deer problem in the future, but it seems to be there growing all around the neighborhoods, and it may be a problem, but I know I got one. The one I mentioned before, but I want to compliment the beer tent. Was handled very professionally, very well located. I was really surprised at how well it was done, and I want to compliment the planning on that. Even though I don't like the beer at the park, that's tough, but they did a good job. The third one, just as a little curiosity, or let you know, our representative, Tim Grimo, was just reappointed to a 4-year term on Aponic Promise Zone. He is an active member of that. He filled a expiring term and was reappointed the last meeting. So I let you know he's very involved. Next thing, just a quick mention. I hope the city planners and groups that did the palace so well will now come up with some innovative review for the country kitchen. And I say that as I've already prodded Brian in saying we ought to be proactive with the DNR and put some of the property that is in the floodplain back into a buildable area by expanding the area of the river that is above the bank. Because, the parking lot at 100-year flood holds so much water. And I'm hoping we do something innovative where we can find another way to hold that water and possibly do something on the 3.5 acres. And if not, the creative group come up with some wild ideas beyond my putt-putt golf. The last item is, I want to thank the city and allowing the Optimus Club to have the car show in the park. We get very good reports from people that come from other areas. I know several people went up to the country table for breakfast and went to the other places to get food and so on. But we want to thank the city for allowing the Optimus Club. The money that's raised is strictly used for projects at the Will Rogers School. We have a Student of the Month program. We have a bicycle safety program. We have a book fair. We supplied the hot dogs for when the parents come at orientation. We provide refreshments for the teachers when they do the things. But just to let you know, the proceeds that come from that are strictly buried in the school in projects. And that's my report.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Thank you. Just a couple. I will just echo what Councilmember Hammond said regarding the appreciation for how well Summerfest 2017 was done. And thank you to the staff and all the volunteers that made that to take place. I invited multiple people from neighboring communities and heard great things about Auburn Hills. So very nicely done. And then just a question, Mr. Grice, I'm wondering if there's any feedback from the concern that Mr. Lang raised last council meeting about, he was from the Orchards and he was talking about that there were some islands that the city used to maintain and now they're being asked to maintain them. Were we able to research that and find out what was going on there?
We did find an agreement between the Neighborhood Association and the City of Auburn Hills, and we're going to share that with the Homeowners Association probably next week. Yes.
Thank you very much, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. That was actually a follow-up on mine, and I know that everyone has already thanked everyone for the wonderful Summerfest, so I wanted to go on record again also to thank all of the staff. I know that every single department in essence, begins planning right for next year's, starting right now or this week. So I know that there's a lot of hard work that went involved with it. I think it went off without a hitch. Two of the highlights, I will say that I will echo Mr. Knight's comments about the beer tent. I did get several residents that came up to me and said, wow, what a wonderful thing that was an addition this year, and they hope it would be back next year. Now, while we don't know what, how profitable it was for the vendor that did that to see if it was worthwhile for them to do it again. It was well received by the residents that did attend. And I know that I went there as well and had to get my wristband to check in. They didn't believe I was old enough to go behind the fence there. So, but there was several people in there, and so it was great. And then also, obviously, the concert that ended on Saturday evening. Both of those bands in the evening, one that started at 5:30 and then the one that took stage at 8 o'clock. Lots and lots of feedback about those two bands, about how wonderful it was and how many people attended. I would be willing to bet it was a record turnout, even with the weather. So the color one was well attended as well. Yes, and they raised money for a great cause too. So.
You know, I've often wondered, and I think we have before, what is the cost of that particular thing? We put a ton of labor in the city. It's an outstanding public relations bid. We spend a lot. Do we spend $60,000? $90,000? Okay, and that's just something, it's a wonderful event. I'm not sure, I don't know whether it's a $90,000 event if we get into tough places, and possibly we need to look at the downtown authority when they get a little money in the Tifa district to take over a lot of the expense of it, because it's kind of on their behalf, maybe half or something and so on. And it's just, I'm just brainstorming. I'm not saying we don't do it, but we are squeezing the dollars and we have to be careful, so.
Great points, Mr. Knight. All right, city attorney's report. City manager's report.
Just one thing this evening. For the past several months, city staff has been working with our website provider to create a new website. And it is ready and will be rolled out tomorrow morning. So by the time you all get up, well, I shouldn't say that. Some of you get up pretty early. Around 7 a.m., between 7 and 9, it will be rolled out. Pretty user intuitive, I think. Shouldn't have any issues, and it's a lot more mobile friendly. So I think that the residents will be excited about the new format, and it really is an attractive website.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Grace. I'm sure they'll have a button to click on there, Mr. Kittle, to donate to the amphitheater on the new site, mobile ready. So with that, we need a motion for adjournment. Moved by Mr. Burmeister, supported by Ms. Hammond. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.